Welcome to the Military Historian Podcast. I'm Lloyd Shellenberger. I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome. My name is Lloyd Shellenberger from the Military Historian channel, and I'm here with some very special guests, and we're covering Left Behind Letters from Baghdad, the book that's going to come out here very shortly. And the family of the subject matter in the book is actually here. And today, I'm here with Zuheer Al-Abase. And say hello.
Hi, I'm Zuheer Al-Abase.
Well, we've been interviewing your families all day long, and actually probably till 7 o'clock tonight. And what people aren't aware of in this whole book series, and they shouldn't be until we tell them, is this is about your father who helped save a lot of American lives, and he helped the Americans in Iraq. Is that correct? Tell me about your father.
My father was a great man. He didn't want to just help the Americans in Iraq. He wanted to help the innocent people in Iraq as well. And obviously with the war in Iraq, there was innocent people being killed that had no right to lose their life. So he wanted to help both sides, and all lives mattered to him. It wasn't just that the American lives mattered to him. It was all lives mattered to him. So he worked tirelessly and endlessly, making sure that everybody was having an equal opportunity that was innocent in the war that took place in Iraq to be able to have a better life.
He disagreed with the Saddam regime, and his name is Majid Al-Abase. He disagreed with the Saddam regime and the murderous tendencies they seem to have, and the ISS. He didn't. In fact, he was a target of the IS. The Iraqi secret police knew him well, and that's because he never backed down, did he?
No, I think that speaks for his character as a person. When I say that he cared for all lives, that meant putting his life before others. And he was a very outspoken man. And so making sure that what Saddam's regime was doing, people knew that what he was doing is out there, and not shying away and being scared of the repercussion he would face from that regime.
He spent 5 years in Abu Ghraib as a result of that, correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of that?
I remember visiting him a couple times, I do, with my brother and my mother. So, yeah, not a place that a kid should go visit,
No.
if I'm being honest. I don't think a kid should ever go visit their father in a type of place like that. But he is your father at the end of the day, so you are happy to see him. Under those circumstances, you wish that you can do something to be able to get him out. But, yeah.
Once he got out of Abu Ghraib, he met Rant and Shellenberger, soldiers from the 141st, in March of 2004, correct?
Correct.
At that particular point, they developed a friendship between each other. And tell us what happened beyond that.
Yeah, I think the friendship grew when, I'll start in the back and say that at the time, between the Iraqi people and the U.S. people, you think that the U.S. military is foreign, right? Because they just came from another country, they're in war, and so we didn't know what to think of the American people. But Grant and Shane had helped my mother, who was sick, and that character spoke for everything for everyone in our household, to understand that these people never meant any harm, but that they were there to help us. So that friendship grew from the care that the U.S. soldiers showed my mother when she was really sick and wasn't able to get medication.
What was she sick from, if you don't mind me asking?
Just, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
But she just needed medication.
She did
They
need
got
medication. She did not only medication, she needed shots. She needed to be taken care of. My own father had to actually give her shots, so he couldn't take her to the doctor, being who he was. He was actually the one that had to give her shots and take care of her. And my dad's not a doctor, So you can imagine
That probably didn't go over well.
didn't go so well. So she wasn't getting any better,
Right.
and she started to get a lot better when the U.S. Army was starting to take care of her.
Because Brant's actually a registered nurse,
Yeah,
so he knows what he's doing.
yeah. So
Now, you were living up in Samara at the time, correct?
yep.
Tell me about growing up there. Really, if we must classify it as growing up right in the middle of the lion's den. You are right there. Everything that could be going wrong in the country is right in that area.
Yeah, Samara was the most dangerous place to enter for anybody. So as a kid, to be living there and now to be standing here talking to you is a miracle within itself, because many people don't get out from that place. That is the lion's den. So the fact that I am here is a miracle within itself. But yeah, we grew up in the desert in Samara. We got very close as siblings. You don't trust nobody except your own siblings and your mother and father. And so at the same time that I would never wish for anybody to experience any things that we experienced, I have to look back and say that I'm very grateful for some of the things that we did experience, to be in a place like that as siblings we had to protect each other, and that has grown into today's life. So
When your father was killed, January 16th, 2005, where were you and what went through your mind on that particular day?
yeah, I was on that particular day that my father passed. I was at I and my siblings were at our house in Samara, and my father is a very timely man. He learned how to be timely on making sure that he always showed up at the exact time. And our house at the time in Samara was about a mile away from the main road. And so as kids, you always knew what time your dad arrives. So as kids, you're always excited to be outside the house waiting for your father to come. And yeah, we waited. All right.
Need a minute. So you heard about it, when your mother heard about it, she was visibly shaken and frightened, knowing that possibly you kids may be next.
Yeah, as I recall from that night, we were all waiting, excited for my father to come back, and he's, like, as I said, he's a very timely man, and he didn't show up the time he was supposed to show up. And as a kid, you don't really know, but you live in that world.
Something isn't right.
Yeah, something is off, and you start to play all these ideas in your head. And my mother is a very powerful person, and she always made sure that she understood her kids to a point when she knew her kids were thinking of things that they shouldn't be thinking of.
Mhm.
So she made sure that we were calming down, that nothing happened. But yeah, all I remember is my dad's truck being towed by the Humvees.
The Silverado?
The Chevy Silverado. And yeah, you get full of excitement, because not only do you get to see the soldiers that are helping you.
You think they're just towing the truck back. You don't
think,
realize it's
all right,
worse than that.
Perfect. My dad's coming home. I'm so excited. The soldiers are coming with my dad. Like, it's perfect evening, right? Until the Chevy Silverado pulls up and it's full of bullets.
Your brother, Omar, was with them. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Iraqi soldiers picked him up. And they even have thought that he had died with your father. Is that true?
We thought that he died with my father, or he was kidnapped.
Okay.
My mom passed out when she saw the Silverado full of bullets, so she passed out. It wasn't until she regained consciousness that she realized my brother was missing.
They thought at this point he might be
And
dead
at
too.
this point, she thought he was gone.
A reasonable assumption, because he was right there when his father was killed. And talking to Omar, the only reason they didn't kill him, and correct me if I'm wrong, was because he was covered in blood, correct? They thought he was dead already.
They thought he was dead.
What went through your head when you thought, not only did they get my father, they got my brother too?
As a kid, I was 10 years old at the time. you don't understand when somebody tells you that your father died. You're asking the question to these people that are trying to help you understand it is, okay, can we go visit him? That's what I was asking. Can I go visit him at the hospital? Can I go see him? And I couldn't process the idea of what dead meant. At the war, I processed it, but when it came to my dad,
You didn't want to process it.
I was like, no, I want to go see him at the hospital. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So I kept asking that question, like, hey, I want to go to the hospital. You guys have to let me go see him. And so, yeah, it wasn't until that same evening that I realized I was never going to see him again.
It's a tough spot to be in. Who was it? Was it Grant's unit that brought the truck there?
Yeah.
So was it Grant and them that showed up with the truck?
It was Grant and Shane. And I remember when Shane pulled up and opened the door, my mom just
Passed out.
Yeah, she knew that not only did my dad pass away and that they were coming for us, but that it didn't matter because Shane opened the door first and they came first before the other people.
Right. And did your mom at that particular point, she didn't speak English, so she kept repeating Baghdad, Baghdad, Baghdad when she woke up, right?
Yep. Yeah. She repeated that.
And that's when they put Ollie on the line. And Ollie, am I correct, translated for her and told the Grant and everybody she's worried about her children because they now know they're coming after her.
And she was saying Baghdad because that's
the only word she knew.
That's the only word she knew, and that's the safest spot we could be at the time.
So she was really saying, get me to South Baghdad and let me stay with my family, right? And that's where she wanted to go and get the heck out of the house.
Yeah.
And it turns out she was right because what, a day later, 2 days later, they came back and shot the house up?
It was
after your father's death?
Yeah, they came and we actually did not leave the house the same night because we were waiting and hoping that Omar would show up.
Sorry to hear that.
And as we were waiting, that's when the cars pulled up. Luckily, the U.S. Army was there.
It was going to happen. They were there, weren't they?
They were there before they showed up.
So there was an ambush almost on the part of the U.S. Army with these guys. And did the U.S. Army eliminate these guys, or did they get away?
You know, I will tell you this much. They confined us in the house right away. And all you hear as a kid is gunshots. Your house is getting hits with bullets. People are screaming. All I knew is the people that came in the house were not the people that came for us.
So essentially, and it was Grant and all those people, right?
Correct.
So they must have figured, and they, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, they must have figured that an ambush on the family was imminent that night or the night after that. They waited and set themselves up so when these guys showed up, they had them.
Yeah.
And it's a good bet that none of them probably walked out.
I will bet my whole life on it that none of those guys walked out of that battle.
Good for that. I'm glad to hear that. So you knew that you couldn't stay there though after that specifically, because this probably wasn't going to be the last time they were going to do that. After that ambush, you knew you had to leave. What plan went into motion to make that happen? Because Omar was kidnapped by the uncle, what, a day later?
Mm-hmm. There was no plan to leave. The plan, once we found out Omar was still alive, the plan was we're not leaving until we get our brother.
Wow.
And my mother was not leaving that house no matter what it meant until he came.
And all they got was Omar. They didn't get the rest of you kids, right?
Nope. Just
was she furious about this at the time?
I mean, from my uncles, of course.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know.
You don't know. You never see it coming. You don't think it's going to be that.
Not from your uncles.
No. And then she went into South Baghdad, stayed there with her family. And what was that lockdown like for you guys? Because you guys couldn't go anywhere, correct?
Yeah. For me personally, I was happy in many moments because I was in a place where I felt more safe and I was able to be with my uncles.
Okay.
And my uncles on my mom's side.
In March 5th, you were brought into the Green Zone and you went to the train station. What do you remember about the train station? Because that in of itself was one of the biggest military operations they did during that time. They went in full bore and made sure that nobody got anywhere near you guys. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, that's very correct, and that's underlining a lot of what happened, what those guys did, and how it was operated for us to even be getting into the green zone, and what they had to do to make it look like, so that nobody can touch us.
Right, because you went back in the restricted area of the green zone, correct?
Correct.
That restricted area wasn't even it wasn't even on limits to allow the soldiers, correct?
Yeah. No. The green zone was the most secure spot in all of Iraq at the time.
Yeah, and I was stationed out of there, by the way.
Yeah.
So I remember when they brought you in, pretty much it was a straight shot from the train station into there. As we talked about earlier, I said that there was one of the first times I had ever saw a convoy rush through, and there was nobody stopping it. And I was in amazement that there had to have been something there that was VIP, because this was not the normal function.
Yeah. As a kid, you don't understand it. When you get older, you understand that what your father did for the people,
Right.
that they did that in return.
Mm-hmm.
People can make promises, but actions always speak louder than
Yes.
words.
Yes, they did.
And those actions spoke all the words that they needed to ever speak. So with the train station, nobody ever knew. There was no words being spoken.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but she wanted to go to Syria at the time. And was it her brother Ali that said, don't do it? Because, frankly, Syria was pro-Saddam at the time. And he was good friends with the Syrian leader. That would have not gone over well because of the pro-Saddam forces that had left Iraq and went to Syria. So he's the one that made the call, am I correct, to the State Department, said we cannot let this happen?
Honestly, on this part of life, I do not
I don't know either. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Something went down that they all decided that she was not going to Syria. You got to America, you got to New York. What was your opinion of America the first time you ever got to New York?
You are in awe. You only see New York back home on TV. So you're in awe that you're in a place that you could only imagine seeing on TV. And when you see it on TV, you as a kid from a third world country, you have dreams. So the fact that I was in a limousine driving on the bridge through New York, looking at the Empire State Building and all that, you're just trying to take it all in, of the fact that, am I dreaming or not?
So you got a tour of New York in a limousine before you got on a private jet, by the way, to go back to North Dakota. That's a pretty good itinerary, if you ask me.
I couldn't have ran a better one.
What did you think of North Dakota when you got there?
You know, I was very happy no matter where I went, as long as I left that place, knowing that the people that were after us couldn't reach us. And so I had to grow to learn to love Fargo, because I knew that that place is now my home.
Right. You could never go back to Iraq, you knew it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been back to Iraq since then?
I've not. I've had my siblings and mother go back.
Is there a reason why you won't go back?
It's a fear inside that my mother is a very powerful person that is trying to get us to break that fear, knowing that some people like that should not be able to have the power after already having the power to take our father away, to take the power away from us ever wanting to go back to where we belong and where we come from.
So basically what you're saying is your mother rejects fear and intimidation as weapons.
Yeah, my mother and father.
Oh, your father definitely.
Yeah.
He lived that life.
Yeah.
But your mother too, because she is over there right now, and obviously none of this is going to get out until none of this is going to be published until she gets back. Are you happy now, where you're at in your life?
I couldn't be more happy.
What is it you hope to see or do or be? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years for you personally?
A father.
Wow. Family, kids? And your father taught you family is the most important thing, right?
Oh, my mother and father, yeah. They received a lot of backlash for being together. Not only did they receive a lot of backlash, they fought for each other because they loved each other a lot. My mother took care of all her kids any way possible. I remember we lived on a month long of potatoes. I always make the joke that my mom is the best cook in the world because she's the only person I know that can make a recipe out of potatoes for a month long, and every single time you ate it was different than the last.
Better than the last.
Better than last every single time.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Amazing.
If you had to look at Americans and say to Americans who don't understand this and have never had to go through this, the cost of war. What is the ultimate cost of war? And it's particularly for families like you. And what should they be wary of?
Life or death.
It's that simple.
You either live or you die.
And a lot of people didn't make it through, did they?
Nope.
Your father being one of them.
Yep.
And your father fought for everybody. I want to thank you for being here. And I want to say to you that I hope that you, April, Esra, all of you, including Omar and everybody, Noir, all of you, have successful lives and happy lives. That's important. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. This is Lloyd Shellenberger for the military historian. We have been speaking to Zuheer Al-Abase, and this has been the Left Behind Letters from Baghdad series, part 3. That's it for the Military Historian podcast. I'm Lloyd Shellenberger, your host. Tune in for more podcasts on the BNN Academy. Thank you.